Hey guys, this is Locke. In this video, I'm going to do a in-depth review of Aquila. I think that she is actually a wasted opportunity. I think they could have made it really good if they made one simple change to how her skill set works. But unfortunately, this is what we get, and that's what we have. So I'm going to go over her skills first, and then I'm going to talk about why I think it's a wasted opportunity, and I think that she's kind of on the worst end of the hero pool. So first of all, let's start with her passive. So her passive can do one of two things depending on her placement. If you place her in the very front, she gets an added defense boost to herself. However, if you put her anywhere else in the middle on the backline, she gives you an increased damage dealt to your team. Sorry, not your team, to the highest attacking member of your team. The member on your team that has the highest damage attack value. Yes. Her second skill or actually her first skill is the Shroud of Darkness. So what this skill does is it's actually a pretty good effect. Unfortunately, it has some conditions you have to meet. So it gives you damage immunity and a significant attack speed increase. However, it can only be used if the target has below 50% HP. So in PvP scenarios, for example, you can't use this right off the bat. You have to wait to take some damage and then you have to use it. And it also has a pretty high skill cooldown as well. It has 52 seconds. I can get it down I can get it down a lot by using a lot of these these cooldown decrease gears, but it's still around like maybe 30 seconds, 25 seconds, or something. So it's still very hard to get 100% uptime on the damage immunity, but I can sometimes get 100% uptime on the attack speed. Now, I will go into it in more detail, how to get that and stuff, but this is the first skill. The second skill is Dark Benediction, and what this skill does is it gives gives the target with the highest attack a shield for 10 seconds and also increases their defense, but quite significantly as well for 25 seconds. It has a skill cooldown of 40 seconds, and with skill cooldown gear, you can pretty much get 100% defense increase uptime. However, the problem with this one is that it targets the unit with the highest attack, so it's good for certain compositions, but you can't really stack it with your tank. Like if you're using a different tank, like that really benefits from high defense, like for example, the Legendary plus Rudy, this would be great on that unit. But unfortunately, it'll probably be on whoever your attacking unit is, like Delins or Cosette or something, right? So it makes them a little bit more survivable, but it could have been, better, but this is what we have. And then finally, her third skill. This is a PvP skill. Basically, it deals damage. In a AOE. AoE around the caster and has a 40% chance of stunning the targets. So it says only stunning the target, but it's for all the targets. It has a chance of stunning all the targets in that region. And unfortunately, the way that this works, it's actually not so useful for PvP in my opinion. And I'll get into all that. So let me first start with the PVE side of things, right? So I have the unit, so I'm gonna talk about it, and I have put a skill, like a what is it? Cooldown set on her, so you can see what it looks like with that. I'm also using this is the formation I'm using. Sorry, I should actually put her into this formation, to a rush formation, so you can see what she looks like with even more skill cooldown. Okay, there you go. So this is what it looks like, and as you can see, like this skill does get down to like 24 seconds with this skill set. I have a level 10 in the divinity as well, but you can see like I can pretty much spam the skill and have an increased defense, but the shield will still expire. And this one is still about like 32 seconds. If I'm using a very high time acceleration accessories, which not a lot of people have, but even if you do have like the entire set like I do, you're still not going to have 100% uptime. And also remember, you have to have the target has to have less than 50% HP. So even if you are able to get it to 100% uptime somehow, if you are at 60% HP and then get one shot by the boss, this is not going to help you. So it's these are all new scenarios, but my biggest problem with her, and when I say that she could have been so good, is her ultimate. Like I really hate that it's only for herself. If the ultimate would target anyone, like maybe the lowest HP unit on your team or something, I think she would have been so much better, especially for PvE. Unfortunately, it only targets herself. So there are two different ways you can play her, and either way you play her, you're always missing out on something, unfortunately. So the first way to play her is as a tank, right? So if you're using her as a tank, you're going to get the defense boost, and obviously she's going to benefit from the ultimate as well because she's going to be healing herself. But for PvE, she's not really benefiting much from anything else as a tank. Like this skill is a PvP skill. This skill, she's going to target the unit with the highest attack, so she's not going to increase her own defense. It's not going to help her to tank bosses that you really need help tanking, right? It's going to help your DPS survive a bit better. But it would have been better if it targeted the highest defense or something. But because of that, she's not going to be taking a lot of advantage from this skill. This skill, sure, like she might benefit from it when her HP gets low, but it's not really reliable. Like she might use it, like if you're counting on this skill to give her immunity enough that she's able to tank the boss, she might actually just randomly use this on somebody else that has 50% HP instead of using it on herself. So it's not reliable to use as a tank. The attack speed boost is pretty nice actually. Like if you get the skill up very high, like I'll show you what it looks like at level 20 just to show you what the attack speed boost is, because it's really really high. At level 20 it's like an 85% attack speed boost, which is drastic, right? So I think that's really nice. However, you don't know who's going to get it. Like your support might get it, she might get it, your DPS might get it, whatever. So it's as a tank, it's not reliable for her to use. It's just as a support, it's nice, but as a tank, it's not reliable because she's probably not going to use it on herself when you want her to. So the other way to play her is as a support. You place her on one of the other slots, and she gives your main DPS a huge damage boost. To see the damage boost that she's getting, you can actually pause this whenever I'm going to go all the way to 20, but if you want to see it at level 15 or something, you can pause the video and look at what it would have been at level 15. But at level 20 she gives almost a 60% damage increase boost to your main DPS. That's pretty significant, right? So as a support, okay, so she gives you that boost, and then she also increases the survivability of your main DPS. Like say Cosette or Dylan's or whoever your main DPS is, she both increases their damage and she increases their defense. So that's the good thing about it. The unfortunate thing now is the ultimate is only going to be cast on her. So as a support unit, I don't expect her to take too much damage, maybe damage like here and there. And so sure, like at niche cases, she might be benefiting from the skill and healing herself. But it's not like, if this instead targeted the main person with the lowest HP or something, like your tank or whoever is taking the damage, this would have been so much better. Like I could have used her very well in PvE scenarios as a very good support unit if only they had changed this to target the lowest HP member instead of herself. But because this is herself, she will she can use this and she will get her HP back, but it's going to be very niche. Because I'm not expecting her to take a lot of damage being a supportive unit. She might take AoE damage for the whole team, but I wouldn't expect her to be the one that causes my runs to fail. So I wouldn't prioritize healing her, but the skill only heals herself. So it's very hard to make use of the skill, in my opinion. So, like I think there are still some niche cases you can use her in PvE content, and I'll get into that in a minute. But I think that this skill had the potential to make her a really good PvE unit, and unfortunately it falls flat just because of this. And then this skill, because she is now a supporting unit, it makes sense. Like she's giving it to whoever needs it. When their HP falls below 50%, she is giving it to whoever needs it, like the tank or whoever's in trouble. So this makes sense as a supporting unit. It's just that this skill sucks when you're playing support, and all the other skills basically suck. Like both of these skills suck when you're playing as the tank. So that's why it really sucks the way they designed her, in my opinion. Now, how can you use her? So I'll give you an example. If you look at the field exploration team that I've set up, I think this makes sense to use, right? So another way of building this team, the team that I had before, was something like this, where I would use, I need two supportive units to especially two healers to clear this. Otherwise, my team is just taking too much damage. Instead, I might actually be able to get away with this. I might not be able to get away with it right now because she's level 30 and she has like zero potential. But if you invest in her as much as I did in my Shay, who has level 12 in defense and in HP, then I can probably get away with using her because she's going to be providing the shields when people are in trouble, and she's going to also be giving a defense boost to Cosette. That's probably going to make my team a lot more better able to handle this. She's also going to be in the front line, so she's going to be taking damage with Cade, so her ultimate is going to help her a little bit. I mean, it would have been better if it targeted the person that needs it the most, but she's probably able to actually survive as as a supporting DPS in this team. Not supporting DPS, supporting unit in this team. And the big difference between using her over Shay is that she's actually going to drastically improve the damage potential of Cosette. Like, I feel like my clear times would be so much higher with this team, given the same investment, than this team. And Shay increases the the ultimate skill gauge of everybody in your team, right? So you're giving that up and instead increasing just the damage potential of Cosette. I still think increasing the damage potential of Cosette itself is going to be a lot better than increasing the ultimate gauge of everybody. Specifically speaking about clear times for this specific team, because one of the effects that Aquila's supporting skill does is increase the attack speed drastically. So Cosette will be firing her shots off a lot faster, which will also increase her skill gauge to be boosted faster, right? With the other one, with Shay, she actually doesn't really count her own Cosette doesn't count her own attacks at building her ultimate gauge, because Shay will always fill it up faster, and whenever she casts her ultimate, Cosette, whatever progress she had goes up to 100 anyway, so her attack speed and her normal attacks building her own ultimate gauge doesn't really count. But when you're using Aquila, that's I believe, in my opinion, that the difference there is more than enough to give you a faster clear time using Aquila instead of Shay. That's my own opinion. I would really have to get Aquila to the same stage as Shay to be making a 100% like a 100% opinion where I've done this and I can tell you for sure this is how it works. But right now I'm theory crafting, and from what I understand, I have like an 80% confidence that for this team, Aquila will give you a higher clear time than Shay does. However, I think, again, in most cases, not specifically when you need to bring two supporting units, I think she's going to be outclassed by so many other units that you can bring instead. Like, you can bring Rachel instead and have the entire team clear faster. You probably don't want to bring Cade then, because Cade also, decreases the defense of the boss. So if you're bringing something like this, for example, you would want to really bring Rachel instead of Aquila, because there's no defense break in this team, right? Whereas Rachel brings a defense break and brings a damage dealt to the boss debuff. Even somebody like Chris, he also gives you a defense break and he increases the crit rate of everybody on your team. So this is, again, most likely a lot better than bringing Aquila. So Aquila is only good really when you want to bring two supportive units, two supports. So that's it's very niche, right? How many cases would you really want to bring two supports and a tank? It's very it's very uncommon. Most of the time it'll probably be for a very hard exploration stage. So it's a very niche case, and even still, you don't need to bring her. You can bring Shay, and Shay is so much easier to get, so much faster to build to level 50 than Aquila. So is it really worth the resources to get her and invest resources in her and get her to the stage of replacing Shay? I don't think so. I don't think it's worth it, because this game is all about resource management. So if you're spending all these resources on Aquila, you're not spending it on somebody else. So I don't recommend that, right? But still, if you really want to use her, this is a case for using her. This is a niche scenario where you can use her, and I think she had the potential to be really good if they had made that small change to her ultimate. But unfortunately, this is what we have, and this is the only way I can think of using her in PvE. Now, when it comes to PvP, unfortunately, she falls short. Um, and I have to really explain. I had to actually even do a PvP challenge with her to confirm this, and unfortunately, what I confirmed was true. So I think she's gonna fall flat in PvP because of the order of her skills. So when she starts, she is going to be using this skill. So this skill is good for your DPS. It'll increase their defense a little bit more, give them a shield, help them to be a bit more survivable. But in PvP, the most common thing is CC, right? So while she will do this at the very beginning, even if you put her at the very front of the team, where as the tank of your team, she will stand back and use the skill, and then during that time, if you're fighting against a unit that has a AoE CC, your entire team could be CC'd. She could be CC'd. And what you really want for her for PvP is to use this skill. Unfortunately, before she has a chance to use the skill, an enemy might CC her. And assuming that they both have the same chances, like, Fodina is a unit that's used very often, and she has a 40% chance of shocking somebody, while she has a 40% chance of stunning. So we can say that they both have an equal chance of stalking or stunning the opponent. Unfortunately, she will cast it second. So most of the time, before she has a chance to use it, I think that she would already be stunned or shocked or frozen or something, right? So and if that happens, usually, like, she doesn't have anything, unless you're giving her like revive accessories and immortal accessories or something. She'll probably die before she has a chance to actually use the skill, if she does get put in that position, which I think is going to happen often, because all these CC, like even like Ming or something, they're all start with using their stun skill, which is what makes them so good, because you want to CC the opponent as soon as possible. You don't want to do something else first, because if you're doing something else first, you're probably going to get CC'd yourself instead. So that's why she falls short, in my opinion. And there's a second reason why she falls short as well. So as I just mentioned, she's going to stand back and use the skill. So imagine your whole team of 4 units, right? So the other 3 units are running ahead, while she kind of stands back to buff herself, and not buff herself, buff her teammate, but she's going to stand back to do it. And while you're doing this, all your opponents are running towards you as well. And then she wants to use the skill. But now she needs to actually get in the middle of these opponents, right? So if the enemy has somebody like Claire, the Claire is going to be, further back. So you're not going to actually hit Claire with the skill unless she runs like way towards the back or something to try to do this. But this is casted, this is centered around herself. And she's not even running towards the front. She's hanging back. So it's going to be really hard to actually hit units that are long range with this skill. So even if she doesn't get stunned and she has a chance to use this skill, she will not be hitting the units like Claire or anyone else that's way backline and has enough range to stay back. So it really falls short, in my opinion, as a CC skill compared to like something like Fodina. Fodina also has like a AoE skill, that's centered around herself, but she actually charges to use it, right? She has like this one, teleports the target. So she actually jumps to the target right away, and then uses the AoE around herself. So there's a lot higher chance of actually getting like an enemy Claire or something caught in this than there is of an enemy Claire being caught in this skill. So that's why I actually don't rate her very highly for PvP. However, like, you don't always have to use the top tier units for PvP. If you don't have Fodina, you can still use Aquila. There's no problem with that. Similarly, like I mentioned before, like I don't rate Makure so great for PvP unless, even though he has the remove buff skill, which is really good for PvP. But if you don't have a better unit that can remove buffs, you can still use them, right? Like you don't have to only use the top tiers. If you don't have somebody better, you can use them. And it's possible that Aquila might get better later on as we go into a defense-oriented meta, because, obviously she will be increasing the defense of herself if she's in the front, and also another unit pretty significantly as well, because she's able to give them a pretty good defense buff. Think about stacking, one of these defense buff with the legendary Rudy's defense buff, and then increasing the defense from Codex, and then putting like a defensive formation. You can like stack the defense pretty high, right? And that might be some kind of meta that evolves later on, but I don't think we're there yet. So I don't think like I would be expecting to see her in the top tier of PvP for a while, unless we suddenly got to get into that like super defensive meta or something. But that's my analysis of her on the PvP side. Now there is one very strange niche case where she might actually be useful, but it's just so useless that you don't really want to do it anyway. But here, this is one way you can maybe use her where she might be good, which is using her by herself like this. So in this case, she's going to benefit from all of her buffs, like everything that she has will be used on herself, right? Because she will basically use the shield on herself. She will give herself an increased defense. She will give herself the damage immunity and high attack speed, which will increase her ultimate skill gauge being used often, and she'll be healing herself often. And also, if you have like a full transcend, like a time acceleration set like this, where you can get off her skill cooldown very fast, with the increased attack speed, she will probably be able to get her skill cooldowns down really, really fast with that, right? So this might actually work, maybe, but why? Like, why do you want to use her by herself? Like, this is just so inefficient. I don't think there's any content where you only want to bring a single unit, but if there is something like that, she might actually excel there. But for everything that we have right now, it's just useless. Like, there's no reason why you want to use her unless you just want to show off and make a video or something, being like, "Hey, look, my Aquila can solo this very hard 3-star something," right? Sure, you can do that if you want, but it's not really practical to use in anything. So it's just like a fun thing that you can do if you want to. But so that's my review for her. If you guys have other questions or comments, leave them below. And if I have overlooked at anything and she's really good in something that I've totally missed, let me know as well, because it is possible that I overlooked something. A lot of the stuff I'm saying is based on the experience that I've playing this game, but also on theory crafting as well. So I haven't tested her out. I only got her now. She is level 30, but from what I know of her, this is how I rate her. But of course, like, feel free to correct me if there is something wrong. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time. Take care now.